got it. Ah, thank God. I mean, you know how it goes. You know, you can't have a show without some technical difficulties here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm guessing that was not a novel experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, it happened every now and then. So,
Sure.
yeah. But anyway, welcome to the show, Amanda. It's so amazing and awesome to have you here. I mean, what better way to finish this week and starting an epic weekend with someone as epic and badass and amazing as you? You know what I mean?
I mean, I hope that I fulfill those descriptors.
Absolutely. And because of that, well, I need to give you a proper welcome, a proper intro for someone such talented and amazing as you. If you have seen some of my episodes before, you know exactly what I'm about to do. If not, that's cool, because then I can surprise you. So here we go.
It's been a while since I've heard applause.
Well, I can tell you that you're gonna hear it a lot more. I'm super sure of it. For sure. So welcome here, and tell me, starting with the whole interview now, tell me how your acting career started.
So if we're going into the way back machine, I was always I started in community theater as a little kid, which is, the case for a lot of actors, I'm sure. But I played a pickpocket boy in Oliver. Oliver Twist, because there are never enough boys for musical theater. And so okay. I was dressed as a little, like one of the Artful Dodger's companions. I don't know if you're familiar with Oliver Twist. I'm sure some of us are. And I was like a dirty pickpocket boy with chimney dust on my face. So that was my first foray into acting. And so in general, started in musical theater. Oh. And then really just never stopped. I think that probably the first, I'm trying to remember, like, officially the first kind of film that I did. I mean, and probably that was just like, I did a bunch of those like 24-hour film festivals and stuff. Yeah. In my younger days, and I think my first IMDb credit is parapsychology. Huge fan of like the found footage genre. So yeah, I went from being a pickpocket boy in musical theater to, able to show my true colors as a lady in sci-fi.
I love it. I mean, such a change,
Oh yeah, I got range.
That's amazing. I love it. And so then in 2012, you were in parapsychology, as you were saying. Now, was that like one of your first projects? And what were some of the things that you learned from those first experiences?
So that was an early film project. I mean, definitely happy to focus on film too, but I had done a lot of theater before then as well. And so some of my favorite experiences have been in theater also. And parapsychology, though, what was fun about that is that a lot of it was improv. Okay. There was a loose script. I mean, there was obviously, I don't know if you've seen any of it, but I mean, it has a beginning, middle, and an end, but like a lot of the dialogue is improv. So that was really kind of a cool experience, because I was used to a very, I would say, conventional like theater background, right? You memorize the lines, that's it. And so obviously you have some extemporization because there's an audience there, but this is very different. So that was a really cool experience, because I got to do, again, it was found footage. So there were a lot of like diary room segments and things like that. So yeah, it was huge fun. I mean, because I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd already, it was just like really up my alley, and early project. So very like low budget, micro budget film. But yeah, first IMDb credit. And that was, it feels like a long time ago, and it was also kind of not a long time ago. Time flies.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's like, for me, it happens that, for example, the other day I was speaking with a friend of mine, and we were like, remembering our high school years. We were like, yeah, I remember that. And anyway, and then at some point he was telling me, wait a minute, do you remember? You do know that was like 10 years ago, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I think it was even longer ago for me, but I'll stop right there. I don't need to date myself anymore.
But like, but like my point here is like whenever they say like 2019, 2018, I feel like that was like a couple of months ago. You know, I mean, I haven't got the point to be like, huh, like that long has happened actually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I sort of measure everything from like 2000, and in my head I round up. I'm like, oh yeah, like 2000 like just happened, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, I've been living more in this millennia than I did in the previous one, and it's a very bizarre experience.
Oh yeah, it does. It's crazy how fast time goes, you know, and like it's like those moments when you stop for a second and you're like and you realize like how much time has passed when you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, how did I get here? No. usually I'm happy to be in the present. So, you know.
Yeah. And like, what were some of the challenges? Like some of the challenges that you had when you first started with your acting career? Because I think that whenever, I mean, it happens to all of us, right? Whenever we're starting something at first, we just don't know what the hell we're doing, basically, you know? And it's a constant, like a huge learning curve at first. So for you, what were the challenges?
I mean, I think like I'm still experiencing challenges all the time, right? I think the thing about acting, especially when it comes to, if you want to pursue film, and I do a lot of commercial work as well, I feel like we can always improve as actors. I'm sure everyone you talk to says that, you know, like you're never done. You should be continually learning, studying, and, you know, improving at your craft. Yeah. But I do think there's an extent to which, like, I feel like, okay, I've got the acting thing. The challenges, you know, I've got that, like, I feel pretty solid there. The challenges are really industry challenges, you know? And so, you know, we were talking before we started our official interview here just about like marketing and that kind of thing when it comes to like even your podcast or the way that social media is so such a useful tool if you know how to use it, all that stuff. I feel like that's kind of where the real challenges are. And, you know, I feel like, not to get too far afield from the question, but I know in the beginning, even though I feel like I've always been acting since I was, you know, very, very young, since I was, you know, Pocket Boy and Oliver when I was 8 years old or whatever, or for my dolls, all that stuff. But I feel like you find yourself with the tools that you need to actually do the job, but it's about, you know, the barrier of entry and getting people to actually get to your page, to look at you. And we have all these other tools now, but it's difficult to know how to leverage them sometimes. Yeah. So sometimes I wish I could just kind of focus on like the creative side of things. But, you know, at this point in my career, I still have to do a lot of the legwork as far as just getting people to, you know, see me, hear me, look at my work and get myself out there.
Yeah.
And so it's not always as much about the artistry, unfortunately. And sometimes it's just really about, I remember having this kind of epiphany years ago where I realized I was uncomfortable saying to people when they ask me, like, what do you do? You know, who are you? What do you do? What are you about? That question, I feel like you always have to have this answer that's like, you know, very specific. I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, whatever. Like, we identify people by their professions. This is, you know, just part of like modern society. Yeah. But I had to really force myself for a period of time to say, like, I'm an actor, when people would ask me what I did and what I do. And I feel like that was a huge step toward overcoming some of those challenges, because you can really be your biggest critic and be the person holding yourself back more than anyone else. So just being able to say, like, this is what I do, this is, you know, part of my identity. And then that kind of frees up other people to see you as, you know, as an actor, as an artist, and then actually, you know, employ you, work with you.
Yeah, true. You know, it's interesting the fact, for example, a couple of months ago, like 10 months ago, I used to have like this typical office job, right? It was well paid anyway. But then I started to hate it, even though that it was well paid. I was just hating it, you know, the whole environment. It was a very toxic environment there, and I was constantly asking myself, like, is this life? You know, is this like how we're supposed to live life? You will get an endless job. You will hate it for the rest of your life, and then when you're 60 or 50, they will basically put you out. They will put someone younger, and then That's it. And then for the rest of your life, you're gonna be constantly asking yourself, like, you should have done this instead of that. So it was like a constant, like existential crisis. But then one day, yeah. But then like one day, I was like, wait a minute. Either actors, musician, athlete, like all of those people, they're not doing that. So that means that that there is actually that there's like actually a way for you to do things. There's actually a reason where you can that you can do whatever you want, but of course that it takes time and it takes a hard work, and I think that maybe for some people, they think like that being an actor or being an athlete is just like fame and all of that, but it's like hard work behind that, that most people don't. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and it's getting through the fear too, right? I mean, that's always our biggest nemesis, and it never goes away,
Yes.
especially doing this. It's like, okay, what's my next gig? Like I'm not Meryl Streep, so I still have to do the work as far as, worrying about where the next thing's going to come from, and how much I want to step into like controlling my own career, like what do I want to write things for myself? So yeah, every day you kind of have to just like chew up that fear and spit it out a little bit, and learn to kind of live with it comfortably also, because it never totally goes away. But it's funny, like you were talking about, just kind of like all the time you spent in that job and wondering like, is this it? Like, is this really as good as it gets? And I recently got this, I can't remember the name of the company, but I got this giant poster where every single week of your life makes like a little cube. So it's like a poster that you can hang on your wall, and it's your life, the length of your life broken up into little weeks. And when you order it, they give it to you with all the weeks that you've already lived, like blacked out. So it's just like a series of cubes. And when you look at it, like, that sounds kind of terrifying, right? It's like, okay, you see it and way more of it is black and checked off than you realize. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about like just kind of how fast time goes. And that, got that like a few months ago, was kind of marvelous and also terrifying at the same time, because it's like, so now every week, we have to go and check it off, and I think it's assuming they're going to live to like 80, something like that. And I only have like 2,000 and some change weeks left, right? You think about how fast 1 week goes by. Like, we all say it, it's a cliche, it's like, oh, it's already Friday, I can't believe it. And it's like, but when you're checking that box off on a thing on your wall and just reminding yourself that, like, you're 1 week closer to death. You don't want to spend one more week like not trying to do the thing that you can't shake, right? Like, you want to do this podcast, you want to talk to people, you want to feel inspired. I've always wanted to act and write and do these creative things. And I also, for a chunk of time was in an office job, I was in sales. Like, I totally relate to what you're describing. And I tried very hard for what, I mean, was too much, 1 day is too many, but too much of my life to do what was expected of me and what was conventional, and just like keep acting as like an on the side thing, because of that fear. And then it's like, okay, every week I was in that job is another box off of my life calendar. And when you start looking at things like that, you're really, you're robbing yourself, and you're also robbing other people of what you could share. Not that I have anything incredible. I hope I have everyone has something to share, right? But I hope that I can actually not let my fear hold me back from sharing what I could with other people.
There you go. Yeah, I can totally get on that. Totally. Yeah, totally. Now, before we continue, let me just connect my computer because it has like 6% of battery, and I'm like, I'm going.
No worries.
And the thing is,
in the meantime, we can look at all the cool stuff that you have in your office.
Oh, yeah. If you have any questions for any, just let me know, and I will know it.
I want to know what all these pop dolls are.
Well, some of them. Okay, so. Oh wait. Dang it. Give me 1 second.
No, take your time. It happens.
Okay. Yeah, we should be good for now. All right. Right. So is Wait, it's charging. Dang it.
No worries.
You know, I hate technology. Like, whenever I said it every time, whenever you want everything to be like super. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Now, do you have any question for any of those I can show you?
Well, I'm curious about what some of the figures on top of the shelf are.
This one.
Sorry, now I'm laughing at the comments. Santa, I know him.
So, which one here?
Okay, so you have your Resident Evil one. Who's on the right side of her? On her right side.
You mean the little one here, or the
Yeah,
other one
the little one. Yeah.
This one is from another video game, from Destiny 2. Let me show you. Is this one?
I love this. I don't know that game. Definitely no Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of.
Oh?
Sorry. No, go on.
Oh, then for the next ones here, we got here. This one is from. Actually, the sequel is coming from this game. Is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one. So I'm not very good. Like, I don't have the dexterity to play video games very well, but I'm one of these people that watches all the cutscenes, like,
Yeah.
or watches other people play them on purpose, which is kind of weird. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's the game that I watched.
I understand. And then the one here on top, that one is Lara Croft from Tomb Raider.
Love it.
That one is, I think, that one. Oh yeah, that one is. Yeah, it's like a version from Batman here. Then on top there, it's all Marvel, like Thanos, Iron Man, Captain America, Ant-Man, Thor, and so on.
I have all your Marvel, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did Lara Croft as a Halloween costume a few years ago. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, how cool! That is, I've been trying. Like the other day, I was like for Halloween one time, I was thinking like with some friends of mine that we should be the Avengers, but no, it was just horrible.
Didn't come out.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we couldn't. So,
which one were you gonna be?
well, I was thinking to be Thor, but the one from Avengers Endgame, like, because at that point I was like way out of shape. So I was like, I got the body already. I'm good to go. So it was just like some long hair and everything. So that was perfect. Like my outfit was perfect. But then
And he's like a video gamer in it, right? It's like all he does. That was like my favorite part of Endgame. Was that we're playing video games. I mean, I was happy when he came back, but I also really liked seeing him.
Yeah, but, like at that point, I saw that movie with my ex-girlfriend at the moment, and then I remember that when we saw that, I just looked at her and be like, I have already Thor body, as you want it. I have it already. I'm good to go now. So then she was like, no, I mean the other one. I was like, you say Thor, I got it now. So yeah.
Next year. But you have to be real Thor, then you can't be out of shape Thor.
Oh yeah. And I'm actually currently working on, and I hate working out, but I love when I feel healthy. You know what I mean? Like the process, I hate it. It's a pain. I just don't like it at all. Like
that's the result.
But the result is like, oh, I like it. So yeah. But anyway, we're working on that now. Right. So then in 2016, you were in I Kill For You, True Crime with Aphrodite Jones, and Dagger Kiss. Now tell me about your characters in those projects, but also how you usually prepare a character. Now you understand, of course, that depends on the role most of the times. But like, what is what are some of the first things that you usually do to kind of set your mind into this journey of creating a character?
Yeah, when I did that I Kill For You show, I did a few of those like reenactment shows. They're not all on my IMDb. It was when I first moved to New York.
Okay.
And I feel like everyone I know who was in like a similar place in their career was doing those shows. That's just like, it's like a bit of a rite of passage. Like I had just moved there and you're just trying to like get credits. And so I did a bunch of those reenactment shows, which I used to watch kind of like the sort of thing that your mother watches on Lifetime. And or like the Oxygen Network. She was very excited I was in these things. But they were actually just really a blast, and it was kind of fun to just work with the different people who were, again, like in a similar place in their careers. But I mean, I wouldn't call it like a big acting challenge. You know, it was just something good to like get my foot in the door and get used to being on professional sets, you know, more professional sets in, you know, in New York. But I think you also brought up Dagger Kiss, which was, I feel like it hasn't been that long since I did it, but I guess because so it was a series, right? And there was the first season, and then instead of doing a second season, we did a feature-length film. So I feel like that's just been kind of going on for a few years, that being that character, you know, over and over. And I love the idea of doing a series because you get a little bit more time to live in your character arc.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's really different from just being in like one episode of something. That show in particular, Dagger Kiss, and then also the sequel, Dagger Kiss, Enchanted Forest, the movie.
Yeah.
So those are obviously like high fantasy genre, which I am, if you haven't already started to pick up on that, maybe from my interest in what you got going on behind you. I love sci-fi and fantasy. So I was just stoked that someone was, you know, creating an independent fantasy movie. And the thing about Dagger Kiss that's really unique is that it is set in so part of it is high fantasy set in the Middle Ages, and then a huge portion of it is happening sort of in our, you know, modern society. There are portals, you know, you gotta have portals in a good sci-fi.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But you know, the two lead characters are not, it's not about heterosexual romance, which is so typically the case in most fantasy especially. What's cool is that, like, the creator of Dagger Kiss also did a series a few years ago called Girl Scene, obviously about lesbian characters. And what's so cool about Dagger Kiss is that not only is it fantasy, a genre where you almost never have characters, you know, who are part of the LGBTQ community. What I really liked about it was that it's not presented as a problem. So I feel like so much of what's on TV and film, and I think that's improving a little bit, but I think it's, you know, it's slow going. But I think so much of what's going on with any LGBTQ, you know, character that you have in a series or film is that they're struggling with, you know, their gayness or whatever it is, you know, like no one in Dagger Kiss is actually upset that we're gay, right? Like, I'm in a loving, beautiful, romantic relationship with this woman. You know, we fall in love over the course of the series, you know, and the second film is showing the later stages of our relationship, and it's a real deep connection, and nobody is like dying because they're gay. No one's being persecuted because they're gay. It's not about that. Like, it's actually a show that is about, it's got this fantasy storyline, you know, we've got daggers and swords and amulets and all that stuff, but it's just a given part of the story. And I think it's really important to keep producing work that shows people who are part of that, you know, part of that community in a light that's not always about what a problem it is to be gay. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah,
that's not the point of the story every time.
Yeah, and I mean, and now that you mentioned that, it is interesting because for some films, sometimes whenever there is a gay character, it's always trouble, you know?
Yeah,
so
it's about that. It's about the fact that they're gay, and then they die.
Yeah, it's always about that. So yeah, that's interesting the fact that you mentioned that, because I was like thinking about like, wait, what about, actually in this film, and what about, that actually happens. So it's so interesting the fact that that even to this day, as you mentioned, the fact that they haven't made that step, you know?
Yeah, I just think it's really cool. And I mean, I'll be in anything where you hand me a sword and put me in a leather corset and give me some magical abilities. Like, I'm down.
That's badass. There you go. I mean, that is super badass. That's cool. No.
My secret dream is to be an action hero, but you know, one day.
Yeah, you will. I'm super sure that hear me out. I'm super sure that one day you're gonna be in this huge superhero franchise. Hear me out. I'm super sure that is gonna happen. Okay,
I'm manifesting that.
Yeah.
With you. I hope everyone watching is also manifesting that for me.
Totally. And then later on, Oscars, here we go. Trust me, that's gonna happen. And like, what do you think that are some of the challenges that someone might have when they're in the process of character creation? Because I think that the key, I mean, I would assume that the key is kind of to make it relatable, right? To make it kind of for the audience to watch, to be like, okay, I can totally relate to that character. But for someone new, what do you think that could be some of those challenges?
Well, I mean, in terms of the way that I sort of like get into character, I'm not, I mean, I think that there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know? Like, I feel like my advice might not work for someone, you know, at all. I've never really been like of the method acting school or anything like that. I really think it's actually pretty important to be able to like turn the camera off and go back to being yourself. I think it's important to protect yourself in that way, like to protect your own psychological well-being.
Okay.
So for me, I've had to learn, and I don't know, maybe this has to do with like more of a theatrical background before I started doing more film, but like, you know, just had to learn to kind of like turn it on the minute like the lights come up or the camera goes on or whatever. And I think that served me with film because you sometimes have to just do a scene 40 times, right? You have to do a line 100 times. Like, I think before when I was doing more theater, you know, years ago, more my jam, I could not have appreciated at that point how different and difficult it can be to just like snap your fingers and do the thing over and over again. Because when you're on stage, I know you didn't specifically ask about stage, but for me, this is like such a big part of my development as an actor. When you're on stage, you're completely immersed. And that can be a really wonderful thing. That can make you, I think, in some ways, you can have a deeper connection with the character for 2 hours because you have no opportunity to leave the character. Like you never leave the stage. I did a play a few years ago called Venus and Fur, and the whole thing is one act. There's not even an intermission. So it's like, you know, that was a really kind of like adrenaline boosting, but also psychologically intense experience because you have no choice. You just have to be there, you know, the entire time you're on. And I think the big difference with film is that if you need to sort of like get yourself into that place deeply every time the camera turns on and repeat the scene 40 times, how are you going to keep doing that while like psychologically protecting yourself if you're never leaving character, right? Because I mean, it takes weeks and months to film something.
Totally.
So for me, I just had to kind of learn like the trick of just like switching it on again, so that I'm in a good place with myself when the camera goes off too.
Totally. Wow. That is, I mean, I love it because, I mean, I love all of that process because it's so that, because for some people it happens, right? That playing a character would be just learn your lines and you're good to go. You know what I mean? But it's a whole other process here. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. That's so cool. And what are like some of the things that you enjoy the most about playing a character? And what advice could you give to those who are recently started acting?
So I imagine that like many of the people that you talk to feel similarly. Like I've just always had the compulsion, like I've always just had organically, like since I can remember, since I was, you know, having thoughts that I can recollect, like always wanting to act. It was not something that I came to later, like it was just kind of like ingrained in me. And whether it was doing, you know, musical theater or, you know, straight plays or doing commercial work. I also do a lot of like audiobook reading, all that stuff, anything under that umbrella. Like, it's not that I don't want to be myself. I've just always been really interested in like hopping around, like this idea that you just get to like jump into the brain of someone else for fun all the time. Like I can't think of anything that I like would enjoy doing more, and it's just always been that way. And I know when I remember there being a period of time when I was like a really young kid watching too many movies and too much TV, but who doesn't? I would always go through like I'd go through a phase, like I'd see a movie and I'd be like, oh, I want to be that thing. Like I remember watching like Gone in 60 Seconds and I'd be like, I'm going to be a car thief. I watched LA Confidential and I was like, I'm going to be on the LAPD, you know, and I would like research these careers and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I realized one day like, oh no, actually that's not what I want to do. I want to do all of those things. Actually, what I want to do is act, you know? So like, I just kind of like had that revelation at some point, probably like, in my like early teen years even. And I think that you can learn, you can improve your craft, but I also am of the opinion that like, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Like, I think you have to have like some natural, already present drive. Like, it's hard to just ask someone to learn to act,
Totally.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know that might not be a popular opinion, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
No,
So, and then as far as advice, I mean, I think most people know what to do to improve their acting. They know what feels good. Like, if this is what you want to do, like, you already probably have a deep artistic sense. What you need advice on, probably, really, it's like we were talking about at the beginning of the interview, is how to navigate the industry. And I think that's where we could all use more education, like, it's not enough to just be able to act and act well. The cream doesn't always rise. Like, you need to have the drive, not only artistically, but to kind of go through suffer the slings and arrows of the industry, which is, as we all know, not an easy one. And you have to build a really thick skin. I know that's been said, but you have to learn to steel yourself before every audition. You have to be comfortable with rejection. And what's more, you have to take none of that personally. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into an audition room, the waiting room, and it's like, oh, this is, all 40 other women of my exact demographic. Like, hello, every late 20s, early 30s blonde in New York. Like, you're here too. So that can help you if you go in with that thinking, like, it's not about me. You have to just do an audition, and then you have to forget about it. You have to assume you didn't get it. At least that's what works for me. And then if I get a call, I'm pleasantly surprised. Rather than, going home and like obsessing over it, because you don't have the bandwidth emotionally to do that all the time. And if you do that, I mean, I'm no expert, but I think if you get too sucked into that cycle of thinking, you won't last, or you will be psychologically damaged.
Yeah, I can understand that. No, I like that. That is so amazing. One of the things that I'm not an actor at all, but when I was a kid, I did was. But like, one of the things that I discovered is don't use shoe paint.
Don't use what? Sorry.
Shoe paint. So what happened was, super quick. It was this play. I was gonna be the vampire, and my mom needed to paint me. So my mom was like, "Wait a minute." So she thought with shoe paint she could paint me,
Yeah,
but
like,
it was like the worst thing she could ever done, because like I don't remember, because I was like wait, but they were telling me that I was like literally dying from the inside, because like the skin was like starting to like stretch.
Horrible for you.
Horrible. And then I don't know. I mean, I do remember that my scene went like this, because I went running away to the bathroom to kind of rip off, because it was hurting, because it was like really really stretching skin. So after that we understand that no shoe paint to the face. Don't do it.
That's some good advice. Aw, baby Dan.
It's a shame, but anyway, I have more of those stories, but that was but for another time. I'll tell you those later. Now, between 2017 and 2018, we're in Shadow of Doubt, The Same Coin, Cosmic Awesome Puppets. That's badass, by the way. The Night Sitter, Epidemic. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, I was like doing like the whole research, I was like, she's doing everything. I mean, the list is huge, and I'm super sure that it's gonna get even bigger later on. Also, Hell House, The Abandoned Hotel. But tell me, like, what do you enjoy the most when you're like being part of the story for a project? You know what I mean? Like what do you like the most when you are, let's say, in this world that you are about to play, basically?
Well, I really love the horror genre too. sounds like I just don't want to live in the real world, doesn't it? I'm like, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, bring it on. I've done some normal drama too. But that couple of years stretch that you mentioned, like the theme there rising is like indie horror. And what I love about that, well, I feel like it's a really supportive community. And it's quite a niche market. Like people who do indie horror, like they're like super fans. People that are into it and people that create it. So I got to work with a lot of people who just were really passionate about their projects and were in some cases more than others, but sometimes doing it on a shoestring budget. And I feel like that the horror genre is quite good for that, because you can do a lot with little and then potentially have a good return on your investment. Like if you have a good idea, people who are part of that community, like they will watch it, they will stick with you. Hell House, with the sequel, Hell House 2, The Abaddon Hotel, was a sequel, which now there's it's a trilogy. But that was also found footage horror, which is just kind of like a subgenre that I love. And yeah, like it's just a great community, which I think is a little bit maybe unexpected or just kind of interesting in the sense that I met such like kind, passionate people doing like zombie movies where they're making me look like I'm half dead, which I think is kind of fun. It's like you wouldn't necessarily expect that. It's a little bit of a nice contrast. Yeah. So, and the other thing that I got out of those experiences was kind of my own inspiration. Yeah. Because and again, I feel like I'm getting a little bit like peripheral, but what I've been doing in the last little while here, like I guess post-COVID really, is I'm actually writing a lot more of my own stuff and working on producing my own work. And so far, all of it is in kind of like the psychological horror genre. And I got so much learning out of working with those people who had written scripts. And now I feel a little bit more competent to, write stuff for myself to act in. So that's been a huge leap. And that was kind of the genesis, like doing Epidemic, really fun zombie movie. So some of the ones you mentioned in there, I would say is like part of the genesis of me wanting to create more of my own content. And so, yeah, it definitely like set the stage for some of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I can understand that. Now, before we continue, your image froze.
Oh no, you guys haven't been seeing my amazing expressions as I speak. Shall I try to refresh here?
Yeah, we could try that. Yeah.
Okay. Just a moment. You may lose me briefly.
That's okay.
Okay, I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. Beautiful. Epic. Now, yeah. So, moving forward here. I mean, so then you were also in Girl Scene, as you mentioned before, Antigone, Alienated, and Dagger Kiss, Enchanted Forest, as you mentioned before. But like, tell me, like in general, what do you like the most about acting?
Oh, that's such a big question. I feel like I feel very at home. I feel most at home.
Yeah.
Strangely, when I'm being someone else, I don't know. I think there's a real feeling, kind of no matter what the role, no matter what the context. There's just like a rightness to it for me. And I wish I had a bit more of like a cerebral answer, but it's just, I've always felt like, okay, this is right. Like this is what, so I feel very much like I'm coming home whenever I like step on a stage or whenever the camera turns on. there are a few moments in I seldom feel as much myself as when I'm acting, which is kind of a strange thing to say. You almost sometimes get a bit of like an out of body experience. And I don't mean that in like a super woo-woo, like magical sense, but I've had moments on stage where I feel like I'm observing myself. And that's when you know that you're really like in a flow state, right? Because if you've heard of the concept of a flow state, or ikigai, it's a Japanese concept, but it has to do with like why people who are very happy and they live very long lives. One of the things that they do is like they spend people who live to be octogenarians and beyond tend to spend a lot of time in a flow state. Like that's what they have in common. I remember reading about this concept a couple of years ago and thinking like, yeah, I kind of attached, that is my experience of acting. Like when I'm doing it, that's when I'm in my flow state. And that just feels right. And that's just like how I want to spend my time.
That is even more badass. That's epic. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Especially when I'm killing people with swords, you know?
I mean, that's badass plus two. That's so cool. And yeah, like from all of your different performances at the moment, what has been some of your favorite characters? Besides, of course, having a sword and chopping people up, you know? Yeah,
Dagger Kiss. I got to be really murderous, and that was really fun. It's hard to say. So I think I'll say like one from stage.
Okay.
That was my favorite, and then one from film. So I did a production a few years ago of Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams, and I played Blanche. And that was an incredible experience because that's something I wanted to do since I was like a little girl reading plays, because I would just read plays as a normal kid. And I mean, I don't know if you're super familiar with that work, but it's a classic. So it's one of those roles that like, you know, a lot of women are just like, that would be like the pinnacle of, you want to play Blanche Dubois, if possible. That was like a bucket list role. Super intense. I mean, they call Tennessee Williams the Shakespeare of the South, right? So very, very high drama. And then as far as film goes, I really had a great experience on Hell House. I think I enjoyed that so much because it was just a really great group of people to work with. And funnily enough, I was playing just a newscaster in it, which I actually have done a bit of actual newscasting in my life. So it's kind of like, oh, that's a bit of a return home for like local news and stuff when I used to live in Florida. And then also I would add to that list probably, I have to say Katya and Dagger Kiss, because that's another bucket list thing, is like getting to be in a fantasy romp where I am like it's a strong female character who is not just the good guy. I don't want to give away too much, but she's more complicated than you, I think, at first realize. And it was also really cool working with Tucky Williams, who wrote and directed those Dagger Kiss and Girl Girl Scene, because, you know, she's a woman who has written all of her own stuff and produced it and just kind of like, worn all the hats. And I find that really inspirational.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that is amazing. Wow.
Oh, and I worked with Kayla on Girl Girl Scene, who you interviewed recently. Lovely.
Oh yeah,
lovely.
Yeah. She rocks. Huge shout out to her. Eventually, she's watching this or listening to this stuff.
Yeah, she's great.
I love it. Now, if you could describe a movie in which all of the characters you have played at the moment will gather for a party, house party, let's say, what would be the name of that movie?
That is an amazing question, and which I've never been asked. And to answer it, I'm going to have to probably give a little bit more context, because I know you know this, but I recently became a mom. I have a 10-month-old baby. His name is Max. And I feel like I've played a combination of, I've been a mother, I've been like a sex pot, and I've been crime fighter throughout my cinematic career. So my movie is going to be called Atomic Mom.
I like it.
Because that's my life right now.
Okay. That is so cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. We might have an idea for a film at some point.
Moms can do it all.
Yeah. I mean, and basically, since Netflix is doing everything, I mean, maybe one day we can write a script and be like, just putting it over and be like, I'm just putting it there,
Yeah, put it on their table, and then maybe Charlize Theron shows up, and I'm like, I don't even need to be in it. I just want to touch you.
I love it. I love it. That is really cool. That is amazing. I mean, as I was saying before, you're super badass. I need to give you a pre-shout.
See, COVID has meant I have not heard live applause, so this is working.
So, love it. Love it. And from all of the characters that you have played again, if you can choose one to be your roommate, which one would you choose?
Bridget from Girl Seen the Movie, because she is so she's an academic. She's a medievalist. She studies like medieval weaponry. But also I have this feeling that if she were real, she would be as neurotically clean in her house as I am. So my tidy, medieval loving roommate would be Bridget.
Okay. And if you could describe your career at the moment on a movie, TV show, book, or play, what would be the title of it?
Holding pattern. Well, because I haven't been in anything in a hot minute because I was pregnant and I've been, nursing and having a baby boy, which is all great. And it worked out really well. Well, on purpose, it worked out because, COVID was just the right time since there was so much, I couldn't obviously do a lot of work and I know many of us have had that experience. But one of the things that it has brought about was just like the time for me to focus on more of my own writing and do some traveling. So I spent a chunk of time in Scotland, and it was really bizarre because COVID made it like a ghost town. I was in Edinburgh, like by a castle. It was like this gorgeous, fantastical place.
So cool.
But it was just empty. Like it looked like zombie apocalypse, which I was in there at a time which would normally have been tourist season, but because of COVID totally wasn't, which inspired me to start writing a film dealing with witch burnings that happened there. And so right, like it's been a really good thing because I filmed it all there and then, did my whole having the baby thing and all that good stuff. So it's been great to like do the post-production while doing mom stuff and not having to like be, on camera. So that's why I'm calling it a holding pattern. But hopefully eventually when post-production's done, there won't be so much holding off anymore and everybody can see it. So
that's badass +3. I mean, you just killed it. That is so amazing. Wow. I mean, and the fact that you were like in Scotland during that time.
It was bananas.
Yeah, I would assume that. And also kind of a little bit creepy, right?
Very creepy. And it's a creepy movie, so more to come.
That is
I hope it's successfully creepy. That's the intention.
And again, if you could describe your career, but now on a drink, which one would you choose?
Bahama Mama? We're going hard on the mom fodder.
Yeah, totally. We're going all out with that. I love it. And like as I was telling you here, I mean, you are definitely doing a lot of stuff here. I mean, you're definitely besides the fact that you're badass, I mean, the fact that you are so inspirational because of all of the things that you have done and accomplished. But tell me, like, where that inspiration comes from.
That's tough to answer. I don't know. Like I mentioned before, I feel like, I don't mean to be a broken record, but I think as far as acting and just creating anything in this sphere goes, there's just a degree to which I've always felt like this natural inclination that I couldn't even shake. Like I mentioned to you before, even when I was like working a job that I didn't enjoy and didn't find fulfilling. Like I think you have to do the thing that you can't shake, right? Like I've never been able to like shake as hard as I tried. I mean, you can fail at something you you dislike too, right? So it's like, I eventually had to get to a point of letting go of some fear and just deciding like, okay, well, if I fail at something I love, fine. Like at least, at least I'm trying. But I think now, as far as just like my desire to like keep going and growing and kind of like, I feel like, we talked about the calendar that checks off all the weeks of your life, and there's this, I don't know if you've read any Stoic philosophy, but I think it's Epictetus? No, Seneca. It's Seneca. And he says, life is plenty long if you know how to use it. So I just think about that often enough. And I just know how I want to use it, right? I'd rather try and fail, and be used up by the end of my life.
I love it. That's bad. That's like even more badass. Because
do I get a +4 for badassery?
Yeah. I mean, I would be saying drop the mic, but I'm not gonna drop this, of course. But like the representation to it, to drop the mic, because you're basically doing that is amazing. That is so amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna drop it, of course, but I mean, I can make a sound later on and be like, oh, I drop it. But I mean, what can I say here, man? I mean, your work is, as I was saying before, it is super cool. I can't wait to see more of your amazing job in the future. And as I was saying, I'm super sure that eventually epic things will come. I'm super sure that eventually we're gonna see you basically everywhere. And who knows? Maybe an action figure too at some point. That would be cool.
That's the real dream. Like that I would do something that anyone would want to make an action figure of me for. Like, let's be real. That's the main goal.
Yeah, let's make it
And
happen.
then I can sit up with all my Xena action figures that I have.
That would be cool. And as I was mentioning, I'm super sure that is gonna happen super soon, because the fact that you're honest to it, the fact that you're honest with your craft, that you love it, that is really cool. And I do believe that when you love doing something, eventually more great things come sooner or later, and that is so amazing what you do. Keep killing it, keeping this amazing, awesome, badass, super person you always are. And I also want to thank those who are watching. Thank you so much for those who tuned in here. If you're watching this later, also thank you, or on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Music. Make sure that you're following Amanda. If you already do, fantastic. So what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna make her viral right now. I mean, let's make sure everybody knows about this amazing, talented actress right here. I mean, from coast to coast, all over the world. And hashtag Team Amanda. Remember that. And Amanda, before I send you off, I need to send you off properly. So you know what's coming. Yeah, keep killing it, keep being awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks.
Bye.